This video is brought to you by Surfshark. Stick around to hear more about the discounts they're providing to the entire upper echelon community. Okay, today I want to discuss the recent trending story about EA and their alleged, now confirmed, black market for FIFA Icons, which saw internal employees selling rare in-game items for thousands of dollars in real-world cash. It's a story that many people have long suspected. It's a story that makes sense when you consider the actual rarity of these items and the potential reward for this behavior. And it's a story that directly contradicts EA's officially stated positions from actual court cases and legal documents in the years prior. Overall, it's time to look at EA and the FIFA black market. The snowball got rolling officially on March 10th, 2021. In what appears to be the first instance of someone publicly highlighting this behavior, a Twitter account titled FIFA Ultimate Team Arcade posted a series of screenshots with some blurred info as well, showcasing that a number of players had been buying some of the rarest players in the entire game directly from an unknown source for cash. This is where things begin, but certainly not where they end. The Twitter thread goes on to showcase how these items are hitting player accounts as untradeable icons, and I'm not exactly familiar with the infrastructure of FIFA Ultimate Team. It's not a game where I have deep knowledge of the economy by any stretch, so any veterans of the franchise can feel free to correct any misstatements down below in the comments, but that would indicate that these cards were in fact given directly to the player's account, and not obtained on the open trading market where most players end up filling their roster. Much more on that aspect later. This Twitter thread, short in length but precise in accusation, was just the warning shot because soon after, more and more pieces of evidence began to surface. Another account named Matt FIFA Ultimate Team Trading posted sets of images that once again showcase, somehow, some way, high-value in-game FIFA players were being sold for over €1,000, and among those screenshots was a Discord paragraph which deepened the story significantly. The Discord message reads as follows, quote, "There's a guy that I know, he claims he has a mate who works at EA and he can load any player to your account, obviously he charges. I verified legitimacy of these different accounts by jumping on SharePlay. He's shown me the first owner on each player and each player played almost the exact same amount of games." End quote. Now, to be fair, at this particular point in time, that was not definitive proof. It was an extremely suspect indication of foul play, but it was not concrete. However, as with any story like this, when someone has been executing that type of black market trade and it's gone on for years, as would soon be discovered, the same sets of players have been appearing in the exact same way within player accounts as far back as FIFA 15, it was established. Once the ball is rolling, it doesn't stop. The proof kept on coming, the information continued to align rather precisely, and ultimately after the hashtag EAGate began trending worldwide on Twitter, EA themselves decided to finally address the situation. In a Twitter post, they stated the following, quote, "We are aware of the allegations currently circulating within our community related to FIFA 21 Ultimate Team items. A thorough investigation is underway, and if we identify improper conduct, we will take swift action. We want to be clear, this type of behavior is unacceptable, and we in no way condone what is alleged to have happened here. We understand how this creates concern about unfair balance in the game and competition. We will update the community as we get more clarity on the situation." End quote. Obviously, the allegations being made had pretty serious weight. Side note, last week I talked about DDoS attacks, distributed denial of service attacks, and how they are currently plaguing the console world for online multiplayer games. I'm not an expert on the process, but essentially someone will scrape your IP address, there's a myriad of different ways, and then knock your internet out to mess with your online experience. And the only real way to protect against that is a VPN, a virtual private network, which will mask your IP address and protect you. Well, no worries, because I've got you covered, and Surfshark has partnered up with the channel to offer a hefty discount and provide that exact service. Surfshark will protect against DDoS attacks, but also it does a whole lot more than that. You can switch your region at will and bypass regional licensing agreements for sites like Netflix, or circumvent localized censorship entirely. You can protect your data from being stolen by big tech, who harvest and use it without ever giving you a cut of the profit, which is wrong. Plus, the interface is clean, easy to use, and polished. The combined effects of a VPN are incredibly valuable in today's online world, and I'm happy to say that Surfshark is offering 83% off and 3 full months free if you click the link down below and use promo code Echelon at checkout. Again, that's 83% off and 3 full months free using the link down below and code Echelon. Big thank you to them for sponsoring the channel. At this point, all eyes were on FIFA, and once a topic like this goes viral, the real digging starts. It turns out the official EA help account on Twitter had been replying with statements such as the following when players expressed a desire to acquire prime moment icons, the players being traded for thousands of euros in these black market deals. Quote, "Hey there, I appreciate your patience with the delayed reply. I see you want to get prime icon moment items in FIFA 21. If you like, you can join me in a private conversation by clicking the link below and we can look at this together. Shay." End quote. That's not your standard boilerplate response. That's not a TOS quote for a formula statement that redirects them to a help page or some kind of runaround, the corporate runaround that they always give on social media. It's pretty standard. That is an open acknowledgement that this player wants to acquire items that are damn near impossible to ever see on the legitimate open market, and an invitation to chat privately. And to cap the whole thing off, that tweet has since been deleted, indicating that yes, this was off script. Yes, this was probably intended to scout for potential buyers, and knowing that the same type of suspect trades had been occurring since as far back as 6 years ago, it seems like EA is in a pretty bad position. Now, that time frame, 6 years, matters a great deal because it actually predates the biggest moment in EA Games history, which is Battlefront 2 and the worldwide loot box fiasco. For those that don't know, it's pretty simple. Battlefront 2 was crammed full of loot boxes, while also taking one of the most beloved franchises in all of human history and bastardizing it with pay-to-win mechanics, which were also marketed, in part, at children. The ramifications of this were swift and severe. It permanently damaged the reputation of EA. Honestly, no one's ever going to forget that. Sparked numerous different lawsuits, got some of their flagship earning titles banned in particular countries around the world until they removed certain mechanics, and overall, it was a pretty historic moment in gaming where even sovereign governments woke up to just how bad EA had gotten. Well, the timeline matters a lot because Battlefront 2 and the entire storm of negative PR happened less than 6 years ago. And while those court cases transpired, EA would claim at multiple separate intervals in multiple different jurisdictions, trying to defend the integrity of their loot box packs in FIFA Ultimate Team, that the integrity of their system was nigh impenetrable. Basically, it's not possible for people to trade players for actual direct cash or circumvent our proprietary economy in this game. They said this in court, they said this in legal documents, and this was part of a huge overall campaign aimed at saving their ability to even use the best earning mechanic they had ever discovered in their massively popular sports franchise games. They famously called loot boxes surprise mechanics. Yeah, that was them. They claimed total integrity of their systems, and they fought tooth and nail to stave off the new regulations that began to examine whether or not they should be allowed to use these types of systems at all. As a side note, this leaves out the enormous rabbit hole of RTP, also known as return to player, where games like FIFA have significantly worse odds on a gambling mechanic, and it really is gambling, than even regulated gambling establishments such as those in Las Vegas, Nevada. Effectively, there is no excuse. Here's the problem. When you are claiming to sovereign governments all across the world, our system has total integrity and trading that circumvents our market does not happen, but your game goes on to be accused of direct insider real-world trades from employees to players for thousands of euros, you have a serious problem. Except none of this really addresses why that problem even exists in the first place, and the answer to that is itself rather shocking. FIFA relies on loot boxes, we've established that already, commonly called packs. These packs give random in-game players, and most in-game players can be sold on the open market between actual players with various different price tags. The prices are measured in coins, which are the standard currency within FIFA. Well, some of the best players in the game, actually pretty much all of the best players in the game, are so rare that they simply don't even show up on the market. To put this in perspective, EA has stated during a recent earnings call, which took place on February 2nd of 2021, that there were 6 million daily active players for FIFA Ultimate Team. That's 6 million people per day that engage with the loot boxes and the economy, but none of the best players show up, priced in at sometimes 15 to 20 million coins apiece, for weeks on end, if ever. That's insane. I have never seen an in-game economy that broken purely from a supply and demand perspective. In any other existing video game economy on planet Earth, practically, the rarest items still have a functional, if slower and much more condensed, trading loop. Having weeks, even months go by without a single person in 6 million daily active players pulling and listing one of these icons, it's absurd. The only result is a void where black market deals will prosper. People will find a way, I guarantee you, in that type of trading void. And for these events, EA has no one to blame but themselves. Even more context here. The relative pricing for these players in coins make it so that their market value, if one is even listed in the next 3 months for you to buy at all, which is highly unlikely, would be thousands and thousands of dollars in equivalent coins. The deals that this alleged EA employee was offering are cheaper than the actual market prices. So despite this whole thing seeming like an absurd waste of money, like on its face, people would think, wow, I can't believe someone would pay 1,500 euros for this kind of player pack. Dedicated players actually evaluating their investment in this game and the returns on that investment, for them it isn't a bad deal. The employee was not only circumventing a completely broken in-game economy, they were providing superior value compared to the official prices, and had been doing so while the parent company told governments and legal courts all across the world that their system was secure for north of 6 years. Basically, this is a big deal. It's a really big deal, and moving forward to the latest acknowledgement, all of it was true. All of it happened, and EA has now admitted to it. From their official blog post update, we can read the following, and this is a bit long, so bear with me. Quote, "Earlier this week, we were made aware of suspicious activity relating to highly rated content in FIFA Ultimate Team. We learned that FUT items were granted to individual accounts that did not earn them through gameplay, i.e. by opening a pack, purchasing through the transfer market, completing a reward challenge, e.g. an SBC completion, or other engagement, e.g. viewing a Twitch broadcast. It appears that one or more EA accounts, which were either compromised or being used inappropriately by someone within EA, directly entitled items to these individual accounts. While a full investigation is underway, we want to share an update on the issue, including what we've learned to date, an overview of the FUT content granting process, and the actions we're taking to tackle this serious problem. The alleged behavior is unacceptable, and in no way do we condone granting a purchasing player items in exchange for money. This practice runs counter to the game's competitive integrity, is a violation of EA's user agreement, and is not something we tolerate. We do not allow the trade or sale of items outside our game for many reasons, including that it would create an unequal playing field for our community. Our initial investigation shows questionable activity involving a very small number of accounts and items. Although it is not a large number, if these allegations prove out, this activity is unacceptable. We want to thank our committed community members for bringing the issue to our attention so quickly." End quote. I won't read all the rest, it's honestly not quite as relevant, but the important takeaway is that the first paragraph is very clearly a legal construct of absolute precision. This was made by lawyers, or at least run through their legal team extensively for multiple iterations. You see definitions, irrelevant details for the customer, but critical details for a legal defense. There is rhetoric to preemptively distance themselves from accountability. There is an emphasis on the possibility that these accounts were compromised and that maybe this had nothing to do with EA. And the remainder of the blog post, I won't read it here, but I'll link it down below for those that care, focuses on specific definitions of content grants, while then making sure to state that these grants have no impact on the rest of the economy and only constitute 0.0006% of the total player items, or something to that effect. Overall, this reads like a carefully crafted attempt to mitigate damage before they even finish the investigation, which tells me they know it's bad. They know it's catastrophically bad, because FIFA is their #1 franchise for quarterly microtransaction revenue, and this type of breach totally invalidates the competitive environment, while renewed worldwide scrutiny of their business practices can lead to nothing but negative press for them. They're widely hated as it is. And the inconsistencies in their past claims, that doesn't help at all. The lapses in security, everything, it's going to gain traction. Most interestingly, this blog post outlines how they absolutely do grant discretionary items to certain players and accounts, such as pro footballers, employees, or celebrity partners, and how, as they investigate, they will cease that process, which makes it abundantly clear that the infrastructure for these insider trades does exist. It does allow someone on the inside to feed items directly into individual player accounts, and clearly it was used inappropriately for a long time. Was this the only time? It's been going on for 5 years or so, probably goes a whole lot deeper than we will ever know, and the emphasis seen on a select few months, i.e. February and March in certain screenshots, by someone finding the deals for this internal source at EA to exploit, indicates that there is a black market FIFA season where some players paid thousands of euros in real-world money for a few top-tier icons. It remains to be seen who gets punished, how deep it goes, and what will happen overall, but odds are we might never know. If it's bad enough, EA will just batten down the hatches and go silent for however long it takes. If the internet forgets, if the FIFA community loses interest, or any number of other scenarios, it will fade into the background like so many other scandals or issues. But I wanted to cover the story, even though I'm a few days late on it, honestly, because whatever the outcome, it was a pretty big revelation, and EA deserves all the negative attention that they can get tenfold. That's it. If you want support, links down below. Please consider watching on Odyssey. It's a YouTube platform alternative that greatly rewards its content creators. And I'm not the only person there. Anybody you watch on Odyssey is going to really be benefited from that much more than on YouTube. You can sign up with the link in the description. There's also locals. You can support directly the channel for $5 a month and watch the completely ad-free uploads of the videos. It's also the best place to contact me directly. Personal messages there always get through and I always read them. And you can listen to the audio podcast versions as well on locals. There's another gaming YouTuber to check out, merch, social media links, etc., etc., etc. But I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching and have a nice night.